Cloud9's first pick. That would be very beneficial to Misfits to prevent that from happening, I feel.
You're absolutely right in that one, Bacon. I don't expect to see anything like that make it through the draft again. An A-side ban of this Black Feather. Again, this can be a very smart ban because it's often used in that first lock-in on B-side because of the flexibility. Can be run as weapon or crystal, can be run in the lane or the jungle. And, you know, as I mentioned earlier, I almost wouldn't doubt it if the side of Cloud9 have a strategy to deal with Varia, at least in the situation that they're in. But they're just going to go ahead and take it off the table. It's a safe ban. And again, I think Cloud9, they're pretty comfortable at running just about anything. And, you know, we've seen it. You know, we've seen even a Captain Sky come out of Gabe Bizzle in the past and was able to pull off a victory with that. But a Churnwalker picked up for the side of Misfits. That is a very strong first captain.
Yeah, you got to figure that Cloud9 is going to grab themselves a Grace here, but because it's Cloud9, they could just go for that carry pick for Old School that we see them take first pick so frequently. It's just a matter of, are they willing to take the chance of Grace getting banned? Because I would expect that to be a banned target for the side of Misfits after this first selection. But nope, they're going to stick to their guns. Get that carry as their first pick. It is a Ringo for Old School.
Yeah, and definitely a strong hero this patch, thanks to some weapon item upgrades. Obviously, the Spell Sword being one of the big ones, as it's now has 110 weapon power, so that's substantially up. And then also the cooldown and the energy regeneration does allow Ringo to have a much easier mid game, because when you are spamming that Twirling Silver in the lane, using it to clear out the wave quickly, sometimes you can struggle with the energy management coming into those early mid-game fights. That's not the case now that Spell Sword is the buff attack item that it is, but it's going to be a Taka ban from the side of Cloud9. Again, we talked about the Taka earlier as a very strong pick, very good at getting to that backline, flying an Atlas Pauldron onto a pick like a Ringo or a Varia. And so, smart banning here by the side of Cloud9. And as you mentioned, Grace going to come off the table. It makes the most sense in the situation that Misfits are in to ban away another one of those powerful captains and try to limit what Gabe Bizzle has available in his arsenal.
That is going to be a very, interesting decision for Cloud9 to make now, as with the Grace taken off the board and they banned away the Taka, they're going to grab themselves the Lorelei instead of something like the Lyra or the Arden. Gabe Bizzle wanting to get this new hero, but it could also be for Isle of Joseph in the jungle. We've seen jungle Lorelei's in the past, and it's one of these heroes that can impact the game from either role, depending on how it's built. So now the side of Misfits, they have to choose, do they think that will be a Captain Lorelei, or do they think it's going to the jungle?
Yeah, definitely a rough call here for the side of Misfits. And it's less about what you think that Lorelei is going into, because you can potentially force where you want that Lorelei to go. I would say it's probably going to be going into the captain position just the way the draft has gone. I don't think Lorelei and Ringo make the best carry duo, just because Lorelei can be a little inconsistent with her damage, especially if Ringo gets jumped on and dropped early on in a fight. So I do believe this will be a Gabe Bizzle Lorelei, but if the draft goes the way just perfectly, we definitely could see a jungle Lorelei come out with those Aftershock spam abilities and the ability to, we've seen multiple stuns come out of Fish Foods where you're able to get a whole team. It is a little bit small on the size, but definitely capable. And then you have that splashdown, which can be useful for the engage or the disengage from the enemy. And with the glaive here, I'm going to say this is definitely a circumstance that Lorelei should go into the captain position just to be a true support and try to help this Ringo out.
Yeah, being able to have that barrier and cleanse any CCs with a Churnwalker, a Celeste, and a glaive on the opposing side is something that's going to be very strong. Although as a jungle Lorelei, you do get a lot of cooldown as well and can just have that ability available very frequently. So we could still see it go to the jungle, but I think I do agree with you. I think there is just a little bit more cooldown that you can get for yourself as a captain. There's a couple other items available that you can pick up with a little extra cooldown, and you can just maximize your efforts at keeping this Ringo alive. And it looks like that is likely to be what we see as Sky comes through for the final pick on Cloud9. So a much better draft this time around. You know, looking at this draft, I don't instantly feel like Cloud9 has an advantage, but just looking at the caliber of the players and the way game number 1 went, it's still very difficult to vote against Cloud9 in this game.
Yeah, it definitely is. Glaive is a hero that Sky can have a pretty easy time with as the game goes on. However, in the early portion of the game, if you use this Glaive effectively, if you're using your afterburns to pin a Sky up against a wall as opposed to punting her away, those are some of the key things that a Glaive needs to do in this situation. If you get onto a Sky, you know, you can get an ambush from a bush, from Shrouded Vision. You can get some damage down, force her to use that Surrey Strike early on, and then follow it with an afterburn, pin her up against the wall, find a kill, and Glaive can get a lead early on. But again, as this game goes on, this Churnwalker and Glaive are going to suffer pretty heavily due to the slows that Lorelei provides, and just the sheer amount of damage that a Sky, once she gets to that third item online, can do.
Alright, well, we'll find out how exactly it's going to work out for them as we get onto the fold here for game number 2, Denomine. This is potentially our last game of the night if Cloud9 find themselves a victory here. We do see, again, a standard start. Both teams starting with their 2 carries at the backs and going to be rotating on over towards the middle of the map, with both captains just keeping an eye on the middle of the map to make sure that there isn't any funny business going on.
Yeah, and it's going to be level 2 spikes for the side of Misfits and for the side of Cloud9 as they're doing the standard rotation. You're going to get your jungler and your laner to rotate through the backs together, get that ambient gold, get that ambient experience, and these are kind of key spikes here. In fact, Old School just a little bit shy of level 2, but it doesn't even look like they're going to look for any kind of fight. This is going to be a free Treant going over to the side of Misfits. And that's just a little bit of gold that Misfits can net early. It's not enough to change the way the game's going to go. Definitely anybody's game up in the air here. Specifically for Misfits, they need to make it to the level 8 mark on Celeste so that she can start to come into full effect.
Yeah, that's going to be a very important timing for Misfits. And you look on the side of Cloud9, you know, it's really level 6 is all that they're specifically looking for to get their big power spike in terms of abilities. And so, you know, the overdrives aren't quite as important on the side of Cloud9 as they are to the members of Misfits. But early on, already off to a much better start for Misfits because they haven't given any kills over to the side of Cloud9. But we'll see how long this kind of lack of fighting will last, as right now I Love Joseph starting up the Elder Treant. All of Cloud9 are rotating down, so we do have all 6 players here. We could be getting a fight. The Treant goes over to Misfits. A great afterburn from Jama will stop the forward barrage from I Love Joseph, and they're able to get out with their prize.
Yeah, they get another little bit down there in the jungle, but the gold is still dead even. And a little bit of that is attributed to just the sharing that the side of Cloud9 have been able to do. I Love Joseph, he's sitting a couple CS ahead of Pajama, but Jazzville, he's a couple ahead of Old School in the lane, and that's not typically what we see. Old School usually dominates the enemy in CS. He's very good at last hitting, so Jazzville, he's got to be feeling pretty good right now that even though it's only a slight edge and we're still very early in the game, he is going toe-to-toe with Old School here in the lane, and that is no small name in the Vainglory scene.
And absolutely isn't. It's one of those situations where, you know, a lot of players, when they play ranked, they actually turn off the nameplates, and specifically so that you don't end up with any sort of, you know, intimidation factor from what you're seeing across the fold from you, because it's an actual thing. You can get intimidated if you look across the fold and see, you know, Gabe Vizzle, Old School, and I Love Joseph. It can set you just slightly off your mental game if you're looking at those names constantly. So, it's one of those. The intimidation factor is always going to be there for this Cloud9 team.
Yeah, absolutely will be. Turning off the nameplates also can help in the lane with last hitting, as there's a little bit less obstruction on the minion health bars, so that can definitely be useful, as well as it does look like Misfits are trying to get some chip damage down here on this turret, and Old School not quite strong enough on this Ringo yet to put out a massive amount of damage. Gonna find a little bit onto Jazzville, but because Jazzville's gone with the Eve of Harvest first and still has that healing flask ready to go, in fact, just about everybody has a healing flask available. Allie Peterson's will be up in just a couple seconds here, so that'll kind of add to some of the intensity of the next fight.
And the next fight is definitely going to be, I would expect to see where we finally see that first blood come through. The fact that we're 4.5 minutes in without a first blood just kind of shows through the adaptation that Misfits have made from game 1 to game number 2. And the fact that Cloud9, they're not really looking for that massive early aggression. They want to get Old School farmed up. They want to get him on 2 to 3 offensive items, preferably 3. You really want to have that Spell Sword and double Monocle on this Ringo build that Old School is going for, but they're not going to shy away from a fight. And so Cloud9, they're going to be pretty happy with the fact that Misfits are playing this a little bit safer as well, because now it allows Old School to just farm up and they don't have to worry about not necessarily being at the level they want to be at when these engagements are breaking out. For now, I Love Joseph just using that forward barrage to try and zone out the members of Misfits. As the team rotates down, they steal away some of the jungle. Pajama gonna use that afterburn. Doesn't actually hit anyone with it, was just using the reposition as he watches that Treant get secured by Old School.
Yeah, and that's going to allow Old School to be at full health as he rotates back up into the lane. Only Allie Peterson's here, so they might have an opportunity to force the wave up. They shouldn't be able to take any turret damage, but they might cause Jazzville to miss out on a couple of these CS. It does look like he may have missed 2 to the turret there, but nothing major. He's still sitting 11 CS above Old School at this point, so again, doing a great job. And now Pajama!
Oh, Pajama will survive, but the fountain was used by Allie Peterson in order to ensure Pajama's safety. Old School now going to be feeling very confident, knowing that that fountain was used. Cloud9 going to go extremely aggressive. They find a stun. Nice afterburn from Pajama. It's going to stun up Old School, but it's not, or Joseph, but it's not going to be enough. Hellfire Brew actually goes out onto the corpse of Pajama, and that is going to be first blood going to Cloud9. Jazzville sticking around, but Old School's dishing out a lot of damage with these shots. It was extremely low, nearly fell there. But with the fountain already used by Cloud9 as well, they're going to have to back off. So they get the first blood bonus, they get a little bit of damage on the turret, but that's going to be about it. Hopefully we didn't lose the nominee here, as the game is going to continue. 7 minutes in right now, 1-0 in favor of Cloud9. And they are going to be looking to, again, just get these items completed. You see Old School very close to being able to get that second, or that first Tyrant's Monocle, the second tier 3 item. Jazzville already has that second tier 3 item though, so a slight edge for the members of Misfits. If they were to start a fight right now, they do have a small item advantage.
Sorry about that, Bacon. I'm still recovering a little bit from the sickness, so had a little bit of a coughing fit there. I do apologize. But as you mentioned, it's going to be Cloud9. They're all up here in the lane. They're looking to find another kill if they can get one and try to take any sort of objective lead. It'll give them a little bit of a burst of gold. And again, once that first turret is down, it is quite a bit more risky for your laner, even a Celeste who has a long range, to come up and try to get that CS, especially when you have someone like Gabe Vizzle on this Lorelei. Very, very effective at getting these fish foods down. We've seen several stuns actually onto Jazzville, even with the protection of the turret there. And that's allowed I Love Joseph and Old School the ability to get in and follow up with hefty amounts of damage. So you have to be worried about the utility that Lorelei brings to the table. She's a raw support at its finest, realistically.
And we do have a Crucible finished for Gabe Vizzle right now. It's a very smart item when you're up against a Churnwalker, but there's a lot of stuns that are going to be coming out from the Misfits, so one Crucible not going to be enough. That's why you do see Old School has his own reflex block. Expect Joseph to go for one as well. because all 3 members of Misfits do have a stun in their kit. Speaking of stuns, that's an afterburn onto Joseph. Not going to be enough to find a kill, and instead they turned it around, almost taking out the glaive in the process. Death from above is going to find a stun onto Jazzville. Hellfire Brew will go out onto Ali Peterson, though. Not going to be able to find a kill here either. At least not yet. Cloud9, they got to feel confident, though. They still have all of their utility, both activatables for Gabe, are ready to go. Ali Peterson nearly falling. Pajama gets in the way. Solar Storm not going to find a kill either, but the Helio does. That's going to be a kill for Misfits. Even though Ali Peterson and Pajama were both on a sliver of health, both going to be able to survive, at least for now. See how aggressive they want to go. Still very low. Trespass will find a stun. So does the Afterburn. And they get right onto Old School. But Old School turns it. Finds a kill onto Pajama. Can he find another one? Not going to stick around long enough to try and get the kill into Ali Peterson. Jazzville is still a very real threat. But what a play from Old School just to get 1 kill off of that.
Yeah, that was absolutely phenomenal stutter stepping coming out of Old School, able to bring down Pajama, who has gone into an Aegis but doesn't really have any defense for the damage that Old School is able to put out, and as a result we see that buff Spell Sword and Tornado Trigger coming through and just chunking him down. He was already on low health as he engaged, but because the Churnwalker doesn't offer the protection directly onto a hero, it's more of an indirect protection. Lorelei has that water wall, has the ability to provide a massive shield to an ally, as well as cleanse any sort of crowd control. While the Trespass can be used, it's more to buy time than an actual direct protection. You're not, getting a burst of healing like a Grace on the Divine Intervention. You're not getting a brief time of immortality like you will out of a Lorelei. And these are important things to make note on how this glaive needs to be prepared to play these fights.
First turret has been destroyed. Cloud9 getting that first objective. We'll get them a little burst of gold. As you can see, the gold, not a massive disparity, but still a little over, or a little under a 2,000 gold lead in favor of Cloud9 at the 11-minute mark. A completely different story, night and day from what we saw in game number 1 at this point. So again, Misfits doing a great job of improving here in game number 2. A stronger draft and much better execution for them thus far. But can they improve it even further? Otherwise, Cloud9 will be able to just ride this momentum that they've got. Big afterburn, but a great block. Crucible used by Gabe Bizzle to make sure that Old School remains safe. Old School held on to his reflex block as well. Big Trespass, though. All 3 members stunned. Ali Peterson is now going to be in trouble, however, as they couldn't capitalize. That seems to be the story of this. Solar Storm narrowly doesn't kill Old School by the skin of his teeth. He's able to survive. What a great shot from Jazzville, but just so frustrating to not find that kill. However, Misfits will be able to even up the turret score as a result.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is one of the benefits as well as one of the downfalls of Gabe Bizzle being so mechanically gifted. Afterburn can be one of the most difficult abilities to block. Even the reposition specifically, the stun doesn't come through until the end of the reposition out of that Afterburn. So for the fact that Gabe Bizzle was able to block the very quick movement, that's cat-like reflexes at its best. However, from saving Old School at that point, it set up a clean execution coming out of Ali Peterson. The Trespass was available, ready to go. The Gauntlet was already used and burned out by Gabe Bizzle trying to protect from the Afterburn, and that set up a massive opportunity for the team of Misfits. They were able to take a turret, evening the objectives, and actually taking a very slight gold lead in their favor. Very, very minuscule amount. In fact, with Old School clearing out that wave, it goes back over to the side of Cloud9. But Misfits, they're showing signs of life, and they are going toe-to-toe with Cloud9 at this point. And again, as you mentioned it, I think a lot of that is due to just the fact that they've got themselves on a much better draft. But here we go.
They do, not eliminate, but they defeat the Sentry. Pajama takes a ton of damage before even getting into this fight. That's going to be Hellfire Brew. Does get blocked, so he's not going to be burning down. But Cloud9 feeling confident as they move up. Joseph gets stunned, but doesn't take a whole lot of damage. Pajama in a bad spot as Old School walks around and finds that kill. Now they turn their attention onto Allie Peterson. Nowhere for this Churnwalker to go, and Joseph just continues to follow through this fight, getting onto Jazzville. Solar Storm nearly takes out Old School. Finally, they get that kill onto Ringo, but it comes at the cost of an ace. Cloud9 able to get all 3 kills.
Yeah, they're going to get all 3 kills. They're going to get a turret off of this one as well, or at least they should, with Joseph and Gabe Bizzle here in the lane, as well as a massive ace minion wave here. And thanks to some minion buffs towards structure damage, those ace minions, even without a minion candy, make short work of that turret. And Cloud9, they've taken a little bit of the edge back in their favor. They now set up 1 turret over the side of Misfits and start to regain some of that gold lead they had that Misfits was able to even out. So we're approaching 15 minutes. Obviously, way different situation than game 1. Kraken will be on the board, and this is still anybody's game to win. And Celeste, she does a lot of damage, either taking or defending against a Kraken. So that is something to make note of here for Jazzville as well.
Right now, the gold miner is getting taken. It is going to get secured by Cloud9. Allie Peterson gets 1 chain down. Do they try and look for a fight here is the question. After the fish food doesn't connect, it looks like they are just going to be backing away. Kraken now on the map. Makes this middle area a much more volatile situation. See if Cloud9 decide to make anything happen. They get a stun onto Allie Peterson. That's going to lead to a decent chunk of damage coming out from Joseph. And Cloud9, they just go ahead and start this Kraken. It doesn't look like they're willing to really commit to it right now, though. Just trying to bait Misfits in and look for a fight. But if they don't come in, if they don't, decide to try and stop this, they're still getting Kraken pretty well captured. That's a little over halfway, although she does reset a bit. Death from above has been used, and they're now committed to it. Kraken is very close, and she's going to reset a little bit again. Here comes the fight, and it's going to be a fountain and a reflex block used, but they killed Joseph. Can they find any more Misfits? Able to get in deep. Gabe Bizzle is low. Old School is gonna. Gabe Bizzle is going to get taken out by the Solar Storm. Old School is still lurking. Now he knows that they're starting up this Kraken. I don't know if he's going to be able to try and get in there to contest it. However, he's just trying to delay them while he can. It would be very, very risky if he was to try and commit to stealing that Kraken. Instead, just going to look for the Treant. He gets the Treant. A little bit of healing, but Kraken will go over to Misfits after a great team fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Joseph got annihilated by a supernova, then came a little bit too far in the fight. Pajama came through with the afterburn. The tension bow proc, although it didn't get the kill, did drop Joseph to dangerously low levels, and Jazzville was able to follow up with a kill of his own just a little bit before Gabe Bizzle was able to use any of his utility to save his teammate. I think, unfortunately, Misfits, they'll get 1 turret off this, but I think Cloud9, they're at a pretty well point that they can defend against this turret. Ringo does a decent amount of damage, and Gabe Bizzle, because the side of Misfits are going to be, forced to stay around or behind the Kraken, he can land these fish foods pretty easily.
Kraken going to take down that choke point turret. Looks like Cloud9 wanted to see if they could find a fight there, but decide to just take the Kraken out and make sure they don't lose anything else in their base. So great push by Misfits, getting themselves that 3rd turret down. This game has suddenly become exceedingly close, as with that 3rd choke point turret down, Misfits will be able to find a heavy push into the Cloud9 base if they can find another team fight.
You are absolutely right there, and this game is so close at this point. It is still a little bit of a gold lead in this favor of Cloud9, but with the base cracked open, that choke point turret is one of the most important ones to drop, as that creates so much distance for your enemies to retreat back to base before they actually have any form of safety. But Cloud9, they don't look very deterred. They are being very aggressive despite having lost that last team fight over the Kraken. And I think they realized it was a little bit of a mistake. Joseph got caught a little bit too far forward, and they are not prepared to make that mistake again. They are looking to close this next fight out. Kraken will be back on the board in just about a minute and a half now. So definitely important for them to make sure that Joseph lives, because if Joseph's on the front line, it's very easy for Jazzville and Pajama to focus on him. And if the Surrey Strike is unable to get used due to some crowd control, and there's plenty of that crowd control on the side of Misfits, so we have to be cautious here with the playstyle that Cloud9 choose to go forward with.
So, 18 minutes and 50 seconds in, Cloud9 getting put on edge a bit here by Misfits. They do still have a slight gold lead, but again, Misfits are in a position now where if they win a team fight, they can make a heavy push into Cloud9's base. Right now, Cloud9 and Misfits on opposite sides of the map from each other, from where they are supposed to be. So, see if any team takes advantage of the situation. At the moment, it looks like Cloud9, they're more than happy to just keep pushing in this minion wave and preventing Misfits from being able to push any further, but Misfits, they're just doing the exact same thing on the other side. So at some point, both teams going to rotate back around. It looks like Cloud9, they're just going to go ahead and recall back to base. Nope, they cancel their recalls and stick around here for a little bit longer. They can obviously see the members of Misfits down in the middle of the map. Kraken is back up again. But now it looks like teams will finally rotate back to their proper sides of the fold.
Yeah, it looks to be the case here, Bacon, as Pajama, he was reaching out a little bit far there by himself, but did not get the distance he needed to find Old School, who has now completed his 4th offensive item and is still sitting on another half of a level 12 infusion. This Ringo is incredibly scary, and looking over at the builds, there is no armor yet complete for anybody on the side of Misfits. So if Old School's allowed to sit onto a target uncontested, he is going to blow this Celeste or Glaive up very, very quickly. And that's something that Misfits maybe need to think about starting to prioritize. They need to get an Atlas Pauldron on this Glaive, because Glaive is so good. The quick timing of the Afterburn makes it easy for him to wind that up, use the Afterburn in before Old School has a chance to react.
Right now, it looks like we could be getting a fight breaking out shortly, as a lot of damage has been done to both Gavizzle and Ali. Death from above is not going to connect. Neither will the core collapse. Nice job dodging away from that one by Cloud9. And either team find enough damage to be willing to commit to the fight. That's the thing. They're just trying to chip away and do as much initial harassment damage as possible before they go in for a full-on fight. But it doesn't look like either team is going to be willing to commit just yet. 21 minutes in now, Cloud9, they're going to start the Kraken again. This is what the play they made last time that ended up costing them. Let's see if it will turn out differently. This time they just give up on that Kraken start. Go ahead and grab themselves a Treant. You see infusions getting popped by all members. Everyone is infused. And this next fight could just determine the game with how late we are getting in this one. Almost 22 minutes in. Misfits force out Cloud9 temporarily, and they immediately go to start up this Kraken. They aren't taking it exceedingly quickly, though, and Cloud9 able to rotate back into position here. This is going to be a fight for the Kraken. Hellfire Brew goes out, gets blocked. That's a Crucible used, though, to do so. Now they're going to be going back in. Solarstrom does not secure the Kraken. It goes to Cloud9, and Pajama is down. Now they can continue this chase. Surrey Strike on through as Joseph is trying to get on Jazzville. Nice block on the Trespass, but Joseph is low as Jazzville is getting a lot of damage out, but just not enough to get a kill. Crystal Sentry will be defeated as well. Gavizzle nearly stops the recall of Jazzville, which would have secured the ace for Cloud9, but instead Cloud9 will not be at full health as Kraken pushes in. That's the one saving grace, but it is a 3-on-1 situation for at least 20 seconds as Kraken makes her way to this choke point turret. That's going to go down very quickly for Cloud9. See how much more they're willing to push with their very already diminished health bars. You see Old School wanted to wait on the other side of the wall, see if he could throw a Hellfire Brew over, but Jazzville was not willing to play ball. So looks like it will just be the choke point and some damage on this first Vein Crystal turret, depending on how quickly Misfits can take Kraken out.
Yeah, fortunately for the side of Cloud9, they were able to pick up the Kraken take. It did go over to I Love Joseph. He was able to finish through thanks to the Kraken getting taken. That forward barrage then passes through the Kraken, was able to find some good damage onto Pajama at that point, and he was able to get a kill, resulting in eventually finding Ali Peterson as well. The ability for Sky to dance around the fight and the Eve of Harvest helping him heal up on the fairly immobile target that's in this Churnwalker. So good plays coming out of Cloud9, but they're not out of the water yet. We've seen Misfits been able to pull off a fight. They're able to pull off the win if they get a kill onto Joseph early on before he's built up the Dragon Eye stacks. And that's going to be important. And Misfits, they can still win this one, but they just have to make sure they pick the right fight. I don't know if starting up that Kraken and knowing all 3 members of Cloud9 are alive was the right call to make. And in fact, that may have been one of the reasons that the Kraken went over to Cloud9, because just how much damage the side of Misfits had done to that objective before they were able to take it down. And then it was already over halfway, and with a skirmish breaking out, it's anybody's game at that point. It's such a risky call this late in the game.
Well, right now, 24 and a half minutes in, any decision you make could be a risky one, because it could just determine the game. Pajama, not sure if Pajama is okay. He is there. He was just setting up a bait perhaps, but right now he's in a rough spot. He's going to be able to get out to safety, as neither team really committing to that fight. Hellfire Brew did go out, was blocked. That was a Crucible used on both sides. No Crucibles will be available. It's a little surprising to me to see that, just how quick these captains are willing to throw that Crucible on abilities that don't necessarily need to be Crucibled. We're getting a lot of that. It's a couple times it's happened where Game Visual used the Crucible on an Afterburn and then didn't have it available for a Trespass. Obviously, Trespass is going to be a difficult one to block at this point with a Null Wave Gauntlet from Ali Peterson. That is an item we do not see very frequently in Vainglory any longer. But if you can get that silence out onto the captain and then get that Trespass down, you guarantee yourself that massive stun. So I like the decision to go for the Null Wave Gauntlet here for the Churnwalker.
Yeah, I think the last time we saw Null Wave Gauntlet used as well as to an effect was Tribe. They actually had a really neat way of running it where when they had a Koshka, usually T-Tigers obviously, oh, Jazzville, hold on here.
Jazzville's going to be in a lot of trouble. Does kite out to the backside of this fight, but now Ali Peterson is stuck in the thick of things. Crystal Sentry doing some work, body blocking some of this damage. Hellfire Brew will come out, but it gets blocked. Crystal Sentry still very healthy here, working for Misfits, but they just aren't willing to try and re-engage with how low they had gotten, and the fact that Gabe Vizzle did not use Fountain during that. With this time that Cloud9 have bought, we've seen them be able to take this Kraken very, very quickly. They're going to start it up again. We'll see if they can get it before Misfits get here. Misfits are moving as quickly as they can. Will it be fast enough? Pajama is in range. Afterburn in, does not get the steal. And now Cloud9 are healing up. Old School doing the smart thing, staying away from this fight so he can get as much healing as possible before re-engaging. Ali Peterson taking a lot of hurt, but Gabe Vizzle is as well. The Afterburn will stun Gabe Vizzle, but he's plenty safe with that massive water wall barrier, and Kraken is now making her way towards the Misfits base.
And with only 2 turrets to go, there is an opportunity for Cloud9 to close this one out. But Jazzville, you're in kind of a risky spot. Here comes Cloud9.
Here they come. They're trying to engage. They're getting in deep. Joseph getting the damage onto Jazzville, almost finding the kill. Finally does take him out. And with that, it is an ace for Cloud9, with Kraken making her way in and 50-second death timers. That will do it for this quarterfinal. And Cloud9 will be moving on to the semifinals of Halcyon Elite with a 2-0 finish.
Yeah, good finish there out of Cloud9, but Misfits, they did a fantastic job in Game 2 here. They pushed Cloud9 almost to the 28-minute mark in a game that was very, very back and forth. And again, I think a lot of that is due to the draft this time around is just much, much better overall. But the rotations that Misfits made as well were very, very clean and very decisive. And that was a lot of the reason that they were able to catch Joseph out a little too far forward several times. In fact, catching Old School out very early in the lane as well. So overall, Misfits played well. Cloud9, they were the ones that played the best and were able to close it out for a 2-game victory. And as you mentioned, they'll be going on to face Rogue next weekend in the semifinals. All right, and with that, we will be heading over to the desk with DZ one last time, help us wrap up and probably get into some of the